Welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity Podcast, where today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now, here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Hello everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Overcoming Mediocrity Podcast. I'm Christy Ruffino, the host of the show, and I have the pleasure of introducing to you my friend and guest for today, Matt Brauning. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, Christy. So stoked to be here and so good to see your face.
Yes, you too. I know I had the pleasure of being on your podcast months ago. So
yes, you did.
I know I'm happy to the fact that your date has finally come around. I think we've had this on the calendar for quite a while, just being able to coordinate our schedules. But it is here. The time has come. Today is the day, and our audience is going to be able to just be blown away by all the things that you're going to share.
Wow, that's a bold statement, but I mean, if we could reflect back what you did on my show, The Driven Entrepreneur, I think we'll if we can get half the value there, we'll be in good shape.
Oh yes, I'm sure we'll get more than that. But let me go ahead and start by first letting the audience know a little bit about the real Matt Brauning, the Matt Brauning on paper, as I read out your bio. Because there's a lot of really good stuff here. So you are a writer for Forbes. That is really cool. I didn't know that. A 2-time best-selling author and host of the top charting podcast, The Driven Entrepreneur, which is featured on iTunes and syndicated on 16, probably more by now, AM/FM stations coast to coast. Is it more than 16 by now?
Unfortunately, it is still 16, but it's
Okay.
amazing. From Long Beach, California to Jacksonville, Florida, people can hear The Driven Entrepreneur on the air.
That is a lot. That is a lot. He has filmed in the movie The Journey with Brian Tracy and Bob Proctor, and you've seen him on television on ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox. Matt has shared his message at places like the Harvard Club, McAfee, New York Life, NASDAQ, and the United States Air Force Academy. How cool is that?
I think it's cool, I guess. It's in the bio, you know.
Yeah, so then
someone wrote it in there.
Then it has to be cool, right?
It must be, yeah.
He's an avid motorcycle rider, which is cool. We have to ride together one of these days.
What do you ride?
I have a 2013 Harley Street Glide.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Been riding for about over 30 years, so a long time. You are a church leader, a rock climber. You climbed technical roped ascent. I don't know. That's some kind of term, right? Technical roped ascents.
we could skip that part of the bio.
Well, all I know is Mount Whitney and the Halfdome Mountain at Yosemite, which is, I'm sure, pretty impressive. And you reside
in the climbing world a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of things I don't know, but that sounds pretty darn impressive. I know I couldn't even probably go up a few feet on some of those mountains.
If you could ride a Harley, you could climb a rock.
Yeah,
Come on.
Maybe. So you reside in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I love Michigan. And you are there with your amazing wife, Lola, and awesome son, Valiant. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much. I got to say that was almost painful for me to go through hearing the things that I've written over the years. But I think one of the things we teach in business is it is important to let your reputation precede you. So, hey, I think, I fought for years kind of over the humility piece of like, none of the things I've ever done in business or in life make me who I am. But they are things that it's probably worthy to share. And I think everybody that's in business should have a bio somewhere before they get introduced.
Yeah, I agree. And I will tell you, I learned a lot about kind of refining my bio through one of your programs. So thank you for that, because it is important. People have to understand why they should listen to you, and your actions or your results speak louder than you have to have that, because people really need to understand why it's important to listen to you. You're not just a bunch of hot air. You actually know what you're talking about.
Well, it's interesting. It's like I see, since we're on the subject for 30 seconds, I think it's like a 1-2 punch, right? You have to have the pre-frame of, hey, this is someone subconsciously that I might want to listen to. And then the part 2 is, yeah, but then you got to show up and be real, be authentic, have some value, have real experiences. I find just a lot of speakers and business owners that are amazingly authentic, really deep on connection and providing value. But if they don't pre-frame the subconscious mind of the listener that, oh, this is someone that, might be worth listening to, then they're already switched off to it. So if you can do both, right, tell people what you've done and then be real and bring value to the table, it's a total win.
It is. And I hear some NLP stuff coming into that, right? Pre-framing and subconscious mind and all the different pieces, which I haven't taken any of those classes. So I need to do that as well. And
hey, we'll get you signed up. All good. Yeah. So, she's talking about neuro-linguistic programming. That's one of the main things I've been teaching and training for the last 15 years in business, is running classes and certification programs. It's just kind of understanding the language of your mind and how and why we do what we do and how to be more successful at it. It's what's grown me professionally, really to the levels that I've been wanting to get to, and how you can hit goals consistently is using this technology of NLP. And that's, we can talk about that if you want to, but that's a big part of what my professional and personal life has been for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you through a speaking community, as well as a speaking program that I am with you and your partner, Jen Koffel. She's been on one of our previous episodes, and it is really allowing all of your customers, I don't want to say customers, right? Partners,
clients?
Your clients, you're helping us be able
Friends.
to build more. Yes, I know.
Loved ones.
Really kind of dive into being a better speaker and building a better speaker business. And I know you're going to share your story about how you kind of got into this space, and you are more than an NLP trainer and than a speaker trainer. You have a really wide variety of ways that you help entrepreneurs. So let's start with kind of just diving right into your story, and why are you so passionate about this mission in life?
I think the part I'd like to share is actually how I started my first business. When I was 5 years old, I'm standing behind this big oak tree, my first day in kindergarten, I'll never forget. I think you may have heard this story before. And I looked out at all these kids playing. And in that moment, I know I have a fatal flaw. I know I'm different. And I didn't understand how these kids can just go up and talk to one another. They could just go up and play and make friends and jump on the swings, and nobody cared. I was standing back so self-conscious. And that feeling of being on the outside looking in, it really stayed with me all through school, all through high school. I graduated, got my first job in a mortgage business. And within a couple of years, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar that changed my life forever. I'm 22 years old, or 21, almost 22. And I see Tony, Tony Robbins, the big teeth, big hands, huge head. I love Tony. But that's we can remember him that way. And I saw him on stage working with people and diving under the surface of why we do what we do. And that changed my life. I in that moment, I'm like, I need to do my own something. I need to help people. And I didn't know how to do that, other than I knew how to do real estate and mortgages because I had learned for the last 4.5 years. So I start my first business at the tender age of 22. And that's the first time in my life, Christy, I remember not feeling like I was on the outside looking in. And I credit that to accidentally becoming a visionary, meaning that I created a vision for what I wanted to bring to the world. I wanted to do a work. I wanted to help families get into homes. I wanted to help people, and I wanted to make money doing it. But then all of a sudden, team members started coming around, and I hired my first employee, and I had contractors and salespeople, and then we got an office, and all of a sudden it was like I'm the one throwing the party, and if people were on the outside of the window, fogging it up, looking in, I'd invite them in. Hey, come in and work for us. And before you know it, I'm 23, 24, and I got, our second office, and I got about 20 people on the team, and I'm just living and loving life and, becoming pretty financially successful. And then I made the choice to become a life coach, because what I really wanted, truth be told, what I really want is to help people at the deepest level possible. And I felt empty after years just doing finance. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, I got kind of lost in that. I was flipping houses, investing in properties. By 25, I had $5 million in property and $4 million in loans. So I had a net worth of $1 million, which quickly got eaten up by bad choices, economic downturn. And by 26, I was bankrupt. Living in my friend's trailer, not my trailer, not even my driveway. It was his driveway. All my houses are gone. And the reason that happened is because I chased a dream. I'm chasing my dream of being a life coach, and I didn't make any money doing it. So the moral, I guess I'll kind of wrap with this, is I was living in this place where I either did what I was passionate about, and I did what I was motivated to do, which is help people by coaching, and I thought I could make no money doing that, or I could make a bunch of money but sell my soul, so to speak, and just do mortgages. And for me at the time, that was very empty work, but I made money doing it. So I was in this which one do I do? Now I know you're probably like shouting, going, you can do both. But at that age, I had no idea how to do both. I'm 26 years old, and I think I have one or the other. It took me a few years, but I finally broke through, all through speaking. That's why I love teaching speaking. By speaking in Australia, I broke through, and for the first time in my life, I started making money coaching and speaking and helping people all in one fell swoop. And for the last, 15 years, that's what I've been doing full time, is coaching, training, helping people change their lives, start businesses. We do it through the Driven Entrepreneur podcast. We do it through our 10X Advantage speaking program, and through the last book I wrote is called The Firebox Principle: 7 Drives to Fuel Every Entrepreneur. And I get into the mindset, the motivation behind why visionaries, trailblazers, leaders, entrepreneurs do what they do. And so, man, all day long, I'm just kind of consumed by this now. It's a blast.
Oh my gosh. I honestly didn't realize that our lives had that much of a parallel, because after my divorce, I went through this crazy time, and I ended up by getting an amazing job at a mortgage company as well. I was able to get to the point where I was stable and comfortable and making good money, but I knew something was missing. So I sat my butt in my boss's office and I quit. I did not know what was around the corner, but I knew there had to be more. And that's kind of led me to where I am. My journey has been a little bumpy along the way, but we do have that in common, where we are visionaries and we really needed to get out and do more than just make money. We need to make a bigger difference in the world. So that's pretty cool.
That is neat. I love, now we can share old school mortgage stories. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I got out right before the whole licensing part, when everybody had to make the decision to go to hours and hours of school. And I realized that I didn't love it enough to go through that. And I knew that there was something else. And yeah, so I know we've gone over story a lot. You are a master at helping people identify their signature story. And the fact that we have multiple stories and how to use them in a way to really make that connection with the audience. And your story is that you just shared was pretty great. And I know you have another story about you and sitting in a bar, and you had this big event that you were doing, and can you want to share a little bit about that event?
Wait, what story is
that? So the story.
Tell me my story.
Oh my gosh, we're getting on. Yeah. So you were, okay, well, let's pivot. Let's pivot to where
Let's pivot to a different story.
Let's pivot. All right. So now you are on this path of helping entrepreneurs, and you are going to be sharing some great information when we come back from a short little commercial. So do you mind hanging on a moment while
I'm ready.
Kind of go ahead and take a break, and then our audience will come back. And I know you have some great teaching moments for us.
Can't wait.
Why spend hours networking in person and now online, only to interact without ever connecting? Who wants to be even busier when our goal is simply to get more business? Since 2003, the Dynamic Professional Women's Network, aka DPWN, has established itself as the premier network for women to grow their businesses through relationship networking. With local and global members across the nation, DPWN sisters help each other prosper through collaboration, mentorship, accountability, support, wisdom, and most importantly, referral generation. To join the DPWN team, visit dpwnglobal.com. All right, everybody, welcome back to today's episode of the Overcoming Mediocrity with Matt Brauning. And the first show we were talking about story. I know how important story is because that is kind of one of the essences of what I do is help people identify their signature stories. And Matt shared how he kind of got onto this entrepreneurial journey and left the corporate world, if you want to say, as a mortgage sounds like you had a whole office with a bunch of staff and just took a step back and realized that there was more purpose. You really wanted to do something deeper to help more people. And that led you to becoming an entrepreneur. I know entrepreneurialism isn't easy. And I know not everybody can do it. And I know a lot of my friends think I'm crazy for not having that stable income, not having that, health insurance and all the security that you have with a job. But is that really security? I don't know. I don't think it is. I wouldn't do anything different. But what really makes an entrepreneur, and how, like, if somebody's thinking that maybe they want to kind of jump into that space because they're really frustrated with what they're doing and there's constraints and they know that their life is meant for more, how could you advise them, Matt?
Such a good question. Christy, you said a couple things in there, and I want to first highlight, I don't believe everyone should be an entrepreneur, a business owner. And you kind of mentioned that there's a lot of conversation right now where, there's mentors and people talking and Instagram and whatever, where it's like, that's the hot thing, you should be an entrepreneur. And I'm finding more and more younger people generally, but there's everyone. What do you want to do? I want to be an entrepreneur. Well, what are you passionate about? What problems do you want to solve? What do you actually want to do? And sometimes some of these kids, 16, 17, 20 years old, don't actually know what they want to do other than they want that it's like hashtag entrepreneur life. I want to be a Gary V. I want to hustle and grind. I want to whatever that looks like. And I just want to first say, goodness sakes, like, don't start a business because you want to be a business owner. That's a horrendous idea.
Yes, because it's not an easy path for sure.
No, and it's stressful, and what I found too. It's funny you said when I became an entrepreneur doing coaching, I was running my mortgage business, and then I opened a real estate business, and then I closed those to be a life coach, and then become a speaker and have a training business. What I learned looking back, maybe 10 years later, I looked back and went, wow. Those two businesses, when you run them, were coaching versus mortgages, are 95% the same day-to-day tasks. I'm doing accounting, I'm doing taxes, I'm running HR, I'm negotiating office lease, I'm leading and managing people, I'm running payroll, I'm looking at marketing, I'm having sales conversations. So literally 95% is the same. The 5% did make a difference for me though. I was not passionate any longer about real estate, but I was passionate about how people tick. So my first, advice, if I could call it that, and hey, this podcast I think is free, so the advice might be worth about, that. So just grain of salt. My first piece of advice would be, don't just start a business because you want to be a business owner. Decide what you actually have passion for, what you have talent for, what you're actually good at doing. And if those two can intersect together and you're actually good at it and you love it, then you might look at, okay, how can I do this in the world? How can I bring this passion and talent into the world? And it might be through a business, but the best place for you might be working a job. A job is not a sin. A job is not a death sentence, right? It's called a career, and that's useful too. So I just want to throw that out in the beginning, Christy, is like, some people are really well fit. The question to ask yourself is, how risk adverse are you? When I think entrepreneur, I think that's synonymous with risk. The entrepreneur is the one that creates a vision, but also takes on the risk to make it happen. If you are risk adverse, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a character defect, right? Mm-hmm. If you want security, certainty, and you don't want to take big risks, that's intelligent and that's fine. But you might not want to start a business doing this. You might want to find a business that exists that you can bring your talent and your passion into, and you might be surprised at how good of money you can make and how big of a difference you can make.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree that entrepreneurialism isn't easy. And then, with great risk comes great reward. So
That's right.
there's a lot of great things to it, but you can't become an entrepreneur. You have to kind of have that in the core of who you are. If you're a builder, and if you remember your childhood going out and, selling lemonade and all of the different things that we do as kids, if that wasn't something that really lit you up, then by all means, don't make the shift. I remember, gosh, my grandmother, when me and my brother and my cousin would go to their house, she gave us a job of picking up sticks in their front yard. They had this huge tree and there was always sticks on the ground, and, go pick up sticks. I'll give you a penny per stick. Well, we all picked up a bunch of sticks, and my brother and my cousin were like breaking the sticks in half so they got more money, and they were doing that thing, and I didn't. But what I did is I had these sticks and I made 10, couple bucks, whatever it was. And then I brought myself to the local 7-Eleven, bought a bunch of candy, and then sold it to the rest of the kids in the neighborhood.
Wait, so you invested back in your business?
I did. And so, I've had jobs here and there, but I always kind of I don't know if I could go back to a job. So, but I know you have things that you want to share about entrepreneurism, and, how can we move forward on this journey in a way that will allow us to kind of set the stage in a way that will make sure that we kind of get the results we're looking for.
Yeah, well, the first step is what we just talked about, is making sure that, again, not that you can do anything you want to do. Anyone can create a result, but the question is, should they? So assuming that you love the idea of, I want risk versus reward. A couple things to qualify yourself, as it were, right? And this is just my opinion. If I'm going to qualify myself as an entrepreneur, it would be, number one, am I okay with high risk? Big risk, big rewards. Am I okay making negative $10,000 a month and then making $100,000 a month next month? If I'm okay with that, I'm going to make more as a business owner than I am, working somewhere, obviously. So are you okay with risk? How much autonomy do you need? Meaning how in control of the vision do you feel like you need to be? Now, for me, I'm a big visionary kind of mind, so I love the creation process. I love to take an idea on a cocktail napkin, and I think that might be what you were talking about before the break,
Yes.
About sitting in the bar. I remember sitting in a bar on the Gold Coast, Australia.
Yes,
and
that's when it was.
yeah, we were coming up with ideas. I was talking to a friend of mine. We were visiting for a Tony Robbins seminar, and I was like, I want to run my own seminars. And he's like, well, what would it look like? And after 2 hours, maybe a couple of pints, we had on a bar cocktail napkin, I had my entire seminar series, a 6 different courses, all laid out. And we actually put that into fruition. I began putting those events on in Australia, New Zealand, and the US. And in the course of a little under 3 years, we made just over $2 million in the first nearly 3 years of business, all from that cocktail napkin. So I'm a big fan of taking the invisible and making it visible. I think that's what entrepreneurs do. So if you feel called to take the invisible and make it visible, see it through, man, this might be the right place for you.
Great. Yeah, I love that too. Taking the invisible and making it visible. So
Maybe that's our social media quote. I don't know. We'll see.
I like that. Okay, so now we have the audience. Some of them have already tuned out. They're like, oh, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. They're gone.
Good. I hope so.
For today's episode, because we have lots of different guests on lots of topics, but for today, all we have left now listening are the ones that you pique their interest and they feel that the entrepreneurial journey is the way to go. And I know one of the biggest challenges as a entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, you may want to call it, is client acquisition. And if you don't mind, I want to pivot a little bit, because I know we see so many different ways out there to get clients. Do we network? Do we go and spend countless hours on social media? Do we pay for traffic through like Facebook ads or whatever? There's just so many ways, but I know one of the ways that you have built a really successful business, and you teach this in your 10X advantage, is to get out and share your message with the world. Use that as a way to really connect with not only the amount of people, but the people that really need what you have to offer, because our story is the differentiator. Our story is what people connect to us and realize, okay, we are the solution to their problem. So talk about how speaking can be one of the most powerful ways for entrepreneurs to attract and like secure clients.
Well, speaking of client acquisition,
Speaking of
um,
it.
I have a couple beliefs around this that it's important to understand or pre-frame. One is I think every business owner should be the face of their business. And it's worked very well for a few brands you may have heard of, like Virgin and Richard Branson, or Apple and Steve Jobs when he was with us. All through history, Henry Ford, it wasn't, ABC Motor Company, it was Ford Motor Company. It still is. Business owners and entrepreneurs have understood the branding of, you have the brand of the personality and the founding person or the founding couple or people, and the face and the story. And then you have the business itself. So I believe today it's so important that we can build both brands simultaneously. Okay. So if you're starting a business, make sure you're also starting a you. Or at the minimum, put your face on the business. And maybe it looks like having your face on the podcast, or maybe it looks like having your story on the back of your product. I think a couple come to mind, like Harry's Razors. They came out after Dollar Shave Club, and if you go to Target or any store and you get Harry's Razors, on the back, there's a brief story on all the packages of these two guys who were like, hey, we're tired of the razor industry jacking up prices and paying $32 for a 4-pack, and that's crazy, and they're holding people hostage, essentially. We wanted to go get the same quality razors at an actual affordable price where they should be. And between them and Dollar Shave Club, all of a sudden they're changing the entire industry. James Dyson, who started Dyson Vacuum, shares a similar story where he saw, vacuum companies at the time, Hoovers and all them, were just too expensive. But even the vacuums themselves, they wouldn't make the money from the vacuum. They'd make the money from the bag. Because every housewife, in the 1950s, as you know, has to go to the vacuum cleaner store and they have to buy these disposable vacuum bags. And they were getting taken advantage of. So Dyson came up with this tornado technology that we're all probably pretty familiar with. It's the clear tube that's a bagless vacuum. Well, that was revolutionary. And he starts in the UK and he can't get it through because every major vacuum company was trying to end him. But he started the narrative. He shared the story, is my point, that this is wrong. This industry has to change. You're spending too much on vacuum bags. That's not right. I made a bagless vacuum. They wanted to end him because that's all their revenue. It's like a car that doesn't break down. That's crazy, right?
Right.
You need the maintenance built into the back end, or a printer that doesn't need ink. Can you imagine that, right? So he couldn't get it in America. He couldn't get it in the UK. He finally actually got Dyson vacuums in Japan, and then it started blowing up there. So it became this Japanese ingenuity, and then it came over. Now, if you go down to your local, home store, every vacuum looks like a Dyson vacuum used to look. The story is what changed the narrative. It's what changed the product. It's what can eventually change an industry. And there's countless examples of that. But the first thing, Christy, is be willing to put your face on the product. Be willing to put your story in front of the people. Lots of different ways that can look, but you go, well, what's my story? Well, why are you so passionate about this? How did you build your talent? What did you see? For me, I love teaching entrepreneurs because when I was 5 years old, I was standing behind an oak tree in kindergarten and I didn't fit in. Owning a business, being an entrepreneur is what allowed me to fit in. And that's why I'm so passionate about the small business owner. So my question, for everyone listening is, what's your story? Why are you doing what you're doing? And how can you craft that with someone like Christy's help, my help? How can you craft that into a story worth hearing? Almost like, I love the stories, Christy, that are like, almost like you could see it made into a motion picture, You can see it as a feature Marvel film, and it's like, the highs and the lows and the turning points. And it's just so much fun to hear a really good story. People love it.
Yeah, it is. They do. And I love helping people get their stories in a book, but you are really great at making sure that we can verbalize it in on stage or in a podcast or wherever we're out there, being able to
I think you have to tell your story Yeah, you got to tell your story on stage. And
Oh, absolutely.
a stage can be the TED stage. It can be a university stage. It can be at a networking event you mentioned. And that's one of my favorite secret strategies is go to networking events, but never go to network. Always go to speak. And see, that's the thing. If you're a business owner and you can speak, if you have a signature talk that you can give that explains, the motivation and kind of what's behind what you're doing, you can share your story. Now you're invited to 50, 100 people in the room, but you're the main speaker, which means they all want to connect with you. You're never going to be again in the back of the room handing out business cards to unwanted palms.
Right.
Because you're the speaker. You're the coveted story and personality people want to meet. I think that's a good thing.
It is. And so this is a really shift for me, because when I network, I still kind of talk about my business and how I help people instead of really saying I'm a speaker that shares my message about helping people like live into their purpose and get their story out there in the world to make a change and make an impact. So I love that.
Yeah, that's the first pivot I give people. It's one simple sentence, and everyone, you can try this. If you go to networking events currently, any kind, right? Even if you haven't spoken yet, I think speaking is the number one lead generation process. It's customizable, it's scalable. You can get speaking gigs in front of 10 people or 10,000 if you build yourself to that point, right?
Yeah.
So it's totally scalable. Don't believe the lie that it's not scalable. Stages also include podcasts, radio, TV, corporations, all galore, right? Networking events, chapter meetings, associations, chamber of commerce. You can speak everywhere. As long as you have your origin story of why you started what you're doing and how you became you, and you have something to teach on, you can go speak. So here's the one sentence I promised I give you is when you meet somebody at the networking event, they say, what do you do? That's what do you do? Where are you from? Those are the two questions that every person asks.
Yeah.
I think they're the worst questions you could ever ask because it engages the least and you don't know anyone, right? But someone's going to ask you, what do you do? Instead of saying, oh, I help people do X, Y, Z, or I help, this target market get this result. That's good. But what's even better is you say this line first. Oh, I'm a speaker and I speak on how to help ABC person get XYZ result. You always introduce yourself as a speaker and just try it out, guys. Try it out. And the next time you go to a networking event, introduce yourself. And when you meet the promoter or the organizer and they say, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm glad you're at my networking event. You paid your $20. This is wonderful. Did you get your fruit breakfast? And they say, what do you do? And then you say, oh, I'm a speaker and I speak on this topic for these people. And watch the eyes of the organizer go, oh, maybe you could speak here for us. And if you don't say you're a speaker, they're never going to think of you as a speaker. And then what's great is you come to network once, next month or the month after, maybe you're invited as the speaker, the main speaker. And that means now, again, it's not scary. You share your story. You teach a little bit on the industry that you know so much about, because that's what you do for work. But at the end, it's like everybody shoves their cards in your face, but it's a good thing. Or they all fill out your form to get your free gift to join your mailing list, or they all buy your widget or your book in the back of the room. They all want to. They're drawn to you because you are the one on stage. And I'm much more happy being a client magnet than a grabber. I don't want to be a grabber and shoving cards in people's faces.
Right. Yeah, that's the worst thing is when
let them come to you, and it's a positive thing.
Yep. Even if you're not speaking to the meeting host or the meeting planner, everybody you network at that event, if you kind of position yourself as the speaker on this subject matter, if they're interested in that subject matter, they're going to ask you more anyways and find out a little bit more about what you do, and maybe you can possibly help them, but it's a lot less salesy.
It is, Christy. It actually, I was going to say off-putting. That's the wrong phrase. It puts people at ease when instead of saying, I help entrepreneurs like you then it's like, oh, they're going to sell me. When you say, oh, I'm a speaker and I speak on this, on this result for these people, they're thinking, oh, you're a speaker up there. Yep. And then they're going to try to qualify themselves to see well, wait a second. I think you could actually help me. Yes. It's almost like they're going to bring you into awareness that you could sell them as if you didn't already know.
I know.
Because you're not pitching yourself. It's like if I had one dream, it's entrepreneurs quit pitching yourself all the time. Yeah. Bring value to the world. Share a story with people. Be willing to help and coach and just be present and connect. The sales will come from the people that get value from what you do.
Mm-hmm. And this may resonate with our audience as well. We've kind of got off on a tangent, but it's a good tangent.
I like this tangent.
Yeah. So I have been a part of Engaging Speakers for 18 years. That community started the same year I started my women's networking organization. And so I've been partnering with Gail for all this time. But this whole time, up until about 2 years ago, I always would say, well, I'm not a speaker. I'm a sponsor. I'm a supporter. It took me 16 years to just say that I'm a speaker. And even then, I'm still kind of easing into it. But if we have an audience out there that is not ready to own that speaker title yet, you could say, I teach on this, or I have a book on this, or I'm writing a book on this. Whatever you want to say, it does position you as that expert on that subject matter, which will lead to more conversation, which will lead to questions, people asking you about how you do help people. And that is a way for you to kind of break into that conversation if it's relevant to that person you're talking to.
That's right. Yeah. Be willing to take on different identities.
Yeah.
Like what is it that I'm running away from when I say the phrase, I'm a speaker? Oh, I don't like to be in front of people.
We don't have time for that on this episode. I can go on for about three days on what's stopping me from that sentence.
Oh, not you, but the other people out there.
Yeah, everybody else.
And whatever the phrase is, right? It's like, oh, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm just a stay-at-home mom, kind of with a side thing. I'm just doing this little thing on the side. Why is it a little thing on the side? What prevents you from saying, no, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a small business owner and a mother and a father, right? Why? So if you're having trouble saying out loud an identity statement like that, I just encourage you to ask why. What is it what's the picture in my mind, right? When I think about what this means. And it's like, oh, if I'm a full-time business owner, and that means I'm taking away from my kids, for this example. And that's not true, but that might be the story and narrative that's in your mind when you get honest with it. And so it's like, let's look at that and say, how can I step more fully into the identities that I'm passionate about?
Yes.
If you're passionate about your kids, be a full-time mom, be a full-time dad. If you're passionate about business, be a business owner. Don't be a dabbler. You don't want to dabble as a parent.
No.
You don't want to dabble in your health. So why would you dabble in business? Why would you dabble in sales? You don't want to dabble in a relationship. But we feel like in business, it's like, it's okay to dabble. It's okay to say, well, I'm just going to try this side hustle. I hate the word side hustle. I think we should kill it.
I know. Yeah. Dabbling.
I'm so passionate about not liking side hustle.
Dabbling is being mediocre. And we all know that everybody that's listening to this podcast doesn't want to be mediocre. They don't want to live a life of mediocrity. They want to get out and make a huge impact in the world.
I feel like they want to overcome the mediocrity.
Absolutely. But a great exercise, though, as far as if you are identifying that you can't, name that title, identify why. Kind of maybe figure out the top 3 fears around that, and then rephrase those fears in a positive statement, and just say that to yourself over and over again. And that will help kind of shift your mindset around that. Because it's all hooey, right? We can all kind of create these own obstacles in our path, but
they're made up stories anyway.
They're all stories that we have been telling ourselves because other people can do it. So why can't we?
So why not make up a story that's more positive? If you're making it up anyway, right? Why not make up one that's positive and see if you actually manifest that?
Yep. Have it become the fuel. All right. So the 10X Advantage Speaker Program, how can people learn about that?
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of speaking,
yes.
You mentioned my partner, Jen Koffel. She's an amazing, amazing woman, mother of 4, full-time entrepreneur, has started multiple businesses with great success. So I'm really, really blessed to partner with her on 10X Advantage. And that's how we came into contact and met each other in the first place a couple years ago, almost by now.
Actually, you spoke on podcasts when you came as a speaker. You were a speaker and you talked all about podcasts.
Because I like podcasts.
And look at where we are now, right? We both have, well, you've had one, but now I have one.
But now I'm literally on your show. Like
I know.
You don't understand actually how cool this is, like to come to fruition on that, to watch you have the dream of, I think I want to start this show, to now it's a success. And now I actually get the honor of being one of your guests. Like that's a really cool thing. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for creating that interest in me many years ago.
You're awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, we're going to put the link to 10X Advantage in the show notes below. for anybody
appreciate
that wants
that.
to learn more about that.
Yeah, well, and here's the idea, right? This isn't, again, like, "Hey, here's my program." The idea is, if you run a business, I believe, and Jen believes, the number one way to generate leads, high quality leads and targeted leads, and leads that are connected with you, ready to buy, is to speak live. Again, you can use media like podcasts, radio, TV, etc. But live in person, or even live on virtual like Zoom conferences, it's amazing. You get to share your story in front of people, and they get to connect with you in real time. And then when you say, "Hey, I want to give you a gift, here's a free gift," like, I'll give you a free gift because we've been connecting together, right?
Yep.
There's no better lead source. Those leads convert much, much higher factor. I mean, much higher. Like, you could get 3 leads from a speaking gig and convert 1 or 2 of them into a high level sale, like over $1,000 product or service. And that's, 30 to 60%. I know people that convert 90% from their speaking leads into their program, product, or service. 90%. What are you going to get from a Facebook ad? Right? You might do a Facebook ad and get 10,000 people and get, 100 or whatever the number is, right? 500
into a low end
lead.
product, and then you've got to nurture them and try to like take
That's
a
right.
portion of them into something higher.
And out of the 100 people that you're nurturing that got this lead thing from you, maybe you get 3 that buy. So you might be looking at a 3, 5, 10% conversion, where live speaking is going to be 30 to even 90 or 100%. So live speaking is the way to go no matter what. You don't have to be a speaker to speak. I like to say, introduce yourself as a speaker, but you don't need to be a speaker to speak. You need to be a business owner with a story. And if you have knowledge around your industry, you can teach on it. And so if you own a hardware store, teach on DIY home improvements. If you are a plumber, teach on service business accounting, or hiring, or inventory and product management, or DIY plumbing, or, there's no shortage of, you have knowledge in your industry. So you can share that knowledge, and you can share it on stage to your ideal target markets. If you're a plumber, I promise you, there's plumbing owner conventions, there's DIY, home and garden conventions. You don't just go and wander around, go speak there. So if you want to find out more about it, we have 2 sites, but this one is probably the one that I wish everyone would go to. It's 10xadvantage.club, not .com, .club. And that's 10xadvantage, 10xadvantage.club. And that's where we do pop-up masterminds. We do live, virtual, anywhere around the world you can join, pop-up masterminds where we bring people like meeting planners and PR agents, TV producers, publishers, actors. We bring all sorts of really cool people that are in the kind of entrepreneur and speaking space, and we grill them and interview them and have awesome Q&As where you get to ask live questions. 10xadvantage.club. And right now we're giving away free lifetime memberships if you join in the next little while. It'll cut off at some point. I don't have the date yet. So hopefully if you head over there right now, there's still a free lifetime membership at 10xadvantage.club. And if you want to find out about learning how to speak for a living, then it's 10xadvantage.com, and you can read all about and see our signature speaker program where we build you into a phenomenal speaker, and we teach you exactly how to get on phenomenal stages.
Awesome. I will make sure both of those links are in the show notes below. I love the club, and I love the fact that we are all kind of like founding members, and we'll be able to be members for free. So that's great that you're offering that.
Yeah, you're in the club, right?
I'm in the club.
Yeah.
I've seen quite a few of your special guest speakers, and they've all been brilliant. And I know you also have a free gift. We're going to put that link in the show notes below, but share a little bit about what that is and why our audience wants to grab it while it's there.
Well, you know what I like to do, Christy, is since we went down the road of so much speaking and networking and connecting, I think I wasn't going to talk about the club, but I think that's the free gift, is the 10X Advantage Club.
Great.
You're getting a free lifetime membership to the pop-up mastermind. We do pop-up masterminds anytime, anywhere. You join it, and then you watch for an email, and we send it out and go, hey, guess what? Next Thursday, pop-up mastermind with TV producer. We've had TV producers from Fox. We had one of my friends is coming up actually soon. Hopefully you won't miss it, depending on when you listen to this episode. Jonah will be joining us, who is just co-starring in Disney's Raya and the Dragon. She's going to talk about how to nail an audition, not just for actors, right? But it's about how to win over your customer base. And that's really what you can gain from a successful actor. We had a daytime soap star talk about how to have charisma on camera. We've had Tom, one of the top podcast agent bookers, on telling us exact secrets about how to get yourself booked on today's top podcast and how to show up and leverage it to make sure you get tons of leads and sales in your business. So we have awesome guests like that, and we're going to have more and more coming up. 10xadvantage.club.
Yay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt. This has been a very jam-packed interview. I've got lots of notes here. We had great conversations. Of course, you shared some amazing stories. And if the audience today that's listening, you really want to soak this all in, I encourage you to apply what you've learned, share a couple tips with people you know, and of course, share our podcast with them, because we would love to be able to have them not only learn from Matt, but learn from some of the amazing other guests that we have on our show. So thank you, Matt. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks, Christy. Appreciate it. I'll see you on social media.
I'll see you at the next meeting.
And I'll see you at the next meeting, the 10X meeting. Can't wait.
Yes,
Thanks,
awesome.
everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they've learned the art of mastering their story. Mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back or they can propel us to new heights. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit www.overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.